So LSU, normally in this slot during camp, we've had Zach Von Rosenberg join us for our fall camp report. And today, the Tigers had a scheduled practice, but as I understand it, they are really treating today more like a Friday before a game. And Ed Ogeron earlier this week talked about how they're a little banged up and they weren't sure how much they would do on Friday leading up to the scrimmage. And they'd also be very mindful during the scrimmage that they might eliminate certain periods that could be high-risk periods for offensive linemen. They've been a little thin there, sort of bit by the injury bug a little bit. So all that's very, very thoughtful and very tactful, and that's a good way to do it. Also just another way to go through the routine of what a Friday night's like before a game. So that's what they're doing today instead of a full-on practice. They really eased up this week, and I think it was a much-needed break for these guys. But this is the end of fall camp with the scrimmage on Saturday, and then on Monday they begin full preparation for UCLA. So I mean, it's really here. But this is the sort of the final checkpoint of fall camp because next Saturday is just it's a game day walkthrough. All the routines of what a game day is like. So this is it as far as your scrimmage or your preseason game as Ed calls it. So I have some things that I'm interested to see in the scrimmage on Saturday. Yep. Now, it's worth noting we don't get to watch it. The media doesn't, I should say. Former players can go, and boosters get to go, and things like that. Select if they want. There are ways you can get in there. But so I'm not going to get to see it. So whatever reaction that I have on Monday is going to be largely based on what Ed Ogeron tells us what happens. And there's one thing that I think we could all agree about Ed is he's a very candid coach. He's very forthcoming. Not many coaches even talk about things like injuries. And like the old joke with Les was like we'd get this camp schedule of when the media availability is, and the first time a player went down with injury and was going to miss a practice, that's when practice was closed. Yeah. Sometimes we'd literally get a day of fall camp and then never again the rest of the year because he just didn't want people in there calling roll. He thought it was a disadvantage. I mean, Ed's the complete opposite. He is, at sometimes somebody even say, too candid, too forthcoming. But to each their own. So when he gives us reaction, I believe him because he has always been very candid with these types of things. So, I mean, I'll start. I know I prepped you on this to maybe think of a few that you were interested to see. Yeah. But for me, number one is offensive line, and that's not going to surprise anybody because I've been talking about it for so long. And that's a unit where I do believe if LSU's first five can stay healthy, that they can be good enough. I don't think this is a dominant offensive line, but you're veteran enough with the guys that have played enough football to where that first five can be really good. With Cam Wire at left tackle, with Ed Ingram, with Liam Shanahan, Chasen Hines, and Austin Deculus. Like that five is good enough to win games in the SEC. Now, I think they may have issues against some like Texas A&M. I think is probably going to have the best defensive front in the league. They may present a problem. They're going to present a problem for everybody. Right. By everyone's account, the defensive line had the upper hand in the first scrimmage. One of the things that we typically see from week 1 to week 2, as the offense has more install, they become more multiple. They're not as basic. That the offense, it then shifts. The offense tends to gain more of an edge. I want to see these guys keep Max Johnson upright. I mean, they're not hitting him, obviously, but you know what I mean. Reduce the pressures, let them function in the offense. I need the offensive line to have a much bigger day, and especially because they may be without some of their starters. We know Chasen Hines has been injured a little bit. Anthony Bradford. Like your next two were Bradford and Garrett Dellinger. Both of them have been battling injuries. I think Dellinger's the one that's not going to be available for UCLA very likely. So you've got to get guys like Cardinal Thomas, like guys like Marlon Martinez. I mean, these guys, Charles Turner, who've waited their turn. You got to get these guys up to speed. I mean, they've got to be ready to play. I mean, you've got to be able to say if someone goes down, hey, you get in and you feel like you can function within your offense. So it's a big opportunity for those guys. Not necessarily just the starters because they may not be whole, but the guys that need to step up and be ready to go. So that's for me number one. I want to hear what he says about the offensive line because that's the thing that could derail the offense if those guys aren't ready to play and if you have any more attrition.
You mentioned a couple of those guys that need to be ready to step in and play if there are some injuries. But like Cardinal Thomas, for instance, you hear so much about him coming out. He was such a big recruit, 5-star kid.
I get asked about him every day.
And he just hasn't really so Deculus and the center, Shanahan, 5th, 6-year kids?
No, they're 5th.
5th-year guys, okay, which scares me a little bit. There's a reason why they've been here for 5 years. It could be that they're good and mature and have grown and they're better, but, I mean, there's a reason why they're still here.
Shanahan, yeah. I think Deculus could have gone, but he took advantage of the COVID year.
Possibly.
Came back. So what about you? What are you looking for?
Look, the linebackers for me is what's interesting, and this goes back 5, 6, 7 years where LSU has just had a linebacker come out of nowhere and all of a sudden just be a dude. Like, who's going to be the guy to step up and be that guy to come in and play? You got a new linebackers coach. The defense struggled tremendously mightily last year. The secondary is going to be stout, assuming one of these kids can step in and play the safety position where they need to, and the defensive line is going to be good. So this falls on the linebackers and like who's going to be the one. Mike Jones, obviously coming in from Clemson, is somebody to expect to step in and play there and play a bunch of important minutes. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but G-String's breaking in a few new student managers.
Okay.
Out there, yeah. And so, when you talk about going on the road, a cross-country trip like this, you got to be prepared for the elements. It's going to be a little bit different. So how those student managers are going to handle the stressors and the pressures of getting on that plane and flying. The first time, you would like to kind of see that game be at home.
Okay.
For those guys to get ready.
I agree on linebacker, and mostly I want to see Mike Jones because they weren't going to just give him a job. He wasn't here in the spring, so they wanted him to come in and earn it. Has he done that? Last week, Ed told us Jared Small was starting at linebacker, Calicut. I'd be pumped for him, but realistically, there's a reason this guy is a projected first-round pick. You need him to play to that level. So let's see if he can win one of the starting jobs. I am interested at linebacker. The other one I'll tell you is running back. I don't know if Ty Davis-Price is going to be able to go. Ed said earlier this week that he re-aggravated his injury.
What is his injury?
They haven't disclosed it. This is a gigantic opportunity for John Emery. John Emery came here so highly rated, 5-star, number 13 overall player in the country, and people are very excited about him, and I get why. I get why we become intoxicated with the star rankings and all of that. But John Emery, you've seen it. You've seen it flash his entire time here. Can he do it consistently? Well, now Ty Davis-Price, who the coaches all offseason have praised for being in great shape, the best shape of his career. Well, Ty Davis-Price has been slowed by this injury. It's a gigantic opportunity for John Emery to wrestle the starting job and not let it go. Can John Emery do that? I'm pulling for him, man. It's not that I'm not pulling for Ty Davis-Price as well. I'll tell you, everybody in 2019 when they were freshmen, everyone asked me about John Emery. And anytime I talked to anybody at LSU, they all said, it ain't Emery. It's the other kid that we like. And Ty Davis-Price ended up being the freshman that played more. But eventually the skill set, same thing with Mike Jones, the skill set has to take over.
Mm-hmm.
John Emery is a more versatile back.
Oh, yeah.
He is the home run hitter. Yep. You need your home run hitter to play to that level consistently, and if he does, then I think you're settled at that position. I've said this all offseason. If you're going to run the 2019 offense, you need the guy that plays the role of Clyde. They don't have that. The best candidate is John Emery. We need to see it. So I'm curious to see how he does tomorrow.
And you've got some young guys, too, some freshmen that have come in and really played well in the running back positions also.
You got anything else?
Yeah, I do, actually. Jack Marucci's taking a new role. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Okay. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar in Town Center. Try to have an adult conversation with you, and all you do is...
I'm just excited about Bo Lowry coming in.
I am excited about it.
Be great.
Yeah, that's okay. We can give Bo some props.
My boy Bo some props.
I like Bo.
He's a guy.
Bo is a guy. There's no question about that. LSU, their training room is in very good hands with Jack and his role now, and Bo in that training role. They got guys.
They got guys.
They got guys over there.